Girls across the fruited plain were exposed to drag queens prancing about in their kinky boots during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, leaving moms and dads to explain to their children why grown men were dressed like women. Macy's is standing by the performance, as is Harvey Fierstein, the musical's co-creator. He says the cast of Kinky Boots brought a message of tolerance and acceptance to America's parade. So let me get this straight. Wearing women's underwear makes you more tolerant? Many parents unleashed on Twitter, outraged over having to discuss gender identity issues with their 6-year-olds. The gender bender crowd may very well believe there's a time and a place for men to dress in ladies' unmentionables. But the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is not that time. I'm Todd Starnes.
Harvey Fierstein. There was a great SNL skit in the 80s. Oh, I'm blanking on who it was, but it included Harvey Fierstein. Harvey Fierstein. Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Proudly on. Say it with me now. AFR Talk. Hans von Spakovsky will join us at the bottom of the hour, the first hour in tomorrow's show, for tomorrow's program. And we're going to be detailing how the president has gone beyond the law and abused his power. And what recourse does the Congress have? Some are talking impeachment. You just don't like President Obama. Stop it. Stop it. He is my president. He is our president, President of the United States. I am very disappointed in his policies. And as president, yes, quite frankly, he scares me because he abuses power. He sells out Israel. Now, what do you talk about as intentions? Let's talk about intentions. Intentions are the most important thing. No, we've got to evaluate results because, again, we go back to the sandbox of second grade when we talk about intentions. I intended to do this. No, as an adult, you got to defend what you're going to do in the sense of how you're going to do it, and that's how you're going to be evaluated because we all pretty much want the same thing. No, we want better people to have better lives in the sense of people to have better lives. Pardon me. We all want to be better people, right? When we go to government, we lose our human nature, though. Isn't that nice? We're no longer fallen. It's beautiful. And that way we can be ruled. And the people making those rules, they don't have to abide by them, are the people in government because human nature, suspended. Actually, no, it evolves. Like our Constitution. Oh. Hey, by the way, did you know God knows you? God loves you. You're worth it. Yeah, he created you. He knew us in our mother's womb. Count the hairs in our head. That's right. He knows you. Please understand that, and God loves you. Why'd you say that? Well, I want people to know that. I want them to know that because I think if you see that first, if you understand, if you put the lens of Christ before you first, some of you are not with the Lord and you're saying, what lens of Christ? Is that Christianese? What does that mean? Just putting God first. It changes the way you look at the world and really directs you on how you can transform the world. Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. Thank you, Michael Jackson. That was impromptu, but hey, you can do it. You can do it. One of the ways we can do it is get a $15 minimum wage. That's what we can do because then people will earn more. Okay, what are the consequences of that? Well, a lot less people working. One study evaluated a 50-cent increase in the minimum wage and said that it cut job growth by 40% in just the 2 to 3 years it was doing that study. That's in a Larry Elder piece in townhall.com a little while back on the minimum wage. By the way, I want to correct myself. The Standish group that did the study on IT projects in the government, large IT projects in the government, it was actually not 97% of them failed, only 94%. And this is a group that evaluates information technology Just an FYI out of Massachusetts. So it's 94, yeah. We'll get back to Obamacare later. I want to get to the $15 minimum wage and ask you, do you support the $15 minimum wage? Because Stephen Greenhouse in the New York Times writes about the fact that we are going to see more wage strikes across the country in 100 cities. And that fast food workers deserve this. They need a living wage. I can break down the numbers for you on people who are part of this. It represents 2.7% of the entire workforce earning minimum wage. Interestingly enough, Stephen writes, backers of the movement for higher pay point to studies saying that the average fast food worker is 29 and more, and that more than one-fourth are parents raising children. Interesting, because that study contradicts another study that was in Investors Business Daily. Only 4% of full-time minimum wage workers are single parents who normally receive benefits such as the earned income tax credit and food stamps. So there are other programs that they qualify for. Just a thought. So would you strike with them? Think they're being exploited? 70% of revenues go to employees, are paid out when it comes to fast food, the fast food industry. Larry Elder wrote about that as well. Interesting stat. So, as we go and we say, okay, the number crane, 1-888-589-8840. Brent, are we on that number? Okay. 1-888-589-8840. Here's the question for you. What is your most memorable fast food experience? Maybe you worked in fast food industry? In the fast food industry? Are you taking out articles now? In the fast food industry? Maybe you were a part of it in some way. Maybe you had a bad experience, maybe a good experience. Maybe you wanted to give a little more to the people working there. Also, do you support a $15 minimum wage hike? 1-888-589-8840. 1-888-589-8840. Because this is always, once again, presented as being compassionate. We're going to see these. You know the consequence of this. I'll get to that. I want to go to the phones first. 1-888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. Are you nice to the fast food workers? Of course, be nice to everybody. What if they get your order wrong? Be nice to everybody. David, Kansas, welcome. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Here's your question, David. What's your most memorable fast food experience? You could be talking employment. You could talk about the service itself as a customer. And also, do you support a $15 minimum wage? David.
Well, I got to tell you, my most memorable is I worked for Brahms as a kid, both before and after I went to basic training for the Army. And it just surprised me the difference just one summer can make when management changes.
I got you. Now, Brahms. Tell me about Brahms. Pardon my ignorance there, Dave.
Well, it's an ice cream store, sells hamburgers, and now they have a whole line of groceries also. It's based, I think, out of Oklahoma, but they raise their own dairy cows, and they raise their own beef and their own vegetables, and it's all kind of self-supporting.
Right. And your experience was working there?
Just working there. I've created a malt back in 1987 when I worked there, and I still have it every time I go into a Brahms store.
Now, have they named that malt after you?
No, I'm the only one that gets it.
Okay. Well, I think the fact you have a great memory, one, you must really like it. I'm just curious what's in it now.
Well, it's cookies and cream and peppermint and cherry syrup.
Oh, you're making me hungry. I could even deal with the peppermint and the sweet and the cherry. Well, very nice. Now tell me, you said it changed. How did it change?
Well, the store that I worked in had male management when I left, and everything was just like clockwork. Everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do. Everybody knew their jobs. When I came back, that manager had moved on to another store. They'd hired in a new manager who was a female, and I guess that happened just almost as soon as I left. And the woman that was the new manager, she just didn't command the respect, I guess, that the fella did.
But you're not saying that's gender. That's just the fact of hiring quality managers, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right, I got you. I just, that's for the people jackpotting the show. Now, you've served our great country, and I thank you for that. I thank you for the malt recipe. Tell me, $15 minimum wage, David?
Absolutely not.
I got you.
I've worked minimum wage jobs several times, and the minimum wage is where you start out. And I believe that if you are a quality employee, you're reliable, and you do your job, you'll get a raise. And with that, you can progress through that. If they raise a minimum wage, everybody who has done their job properly and done a good job takes a pay cut. Because when minimum wage goes up, cost of living goes up a percentage of the minimum wage, not like if minimum wage goes up 50 cents,
mm-hmm.
If that's a 5% increase on minimum wage, then that's going to be a 7% increase on the cost of living. And
so there's a cause and effect, bottom line, and it undermines the employer rewarding the employee who has been working and the way that they would compensate them, and the market would determine it.
I was actually working a minimum wage job that I had been there for a while, and I had got a couple of raises in the past when we had one of those bigger minimum wage increases.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I was making minimum wage.
Yeah.
After having gotten 2 promotions because they raised the minimum wage.
David, appreciate your story, appreciate your perspective, appreciate the recipe, and appreciate most of all your service. Thanks, brother. You have a good one.
Bless.
Back at you. Let's keep going. And we go to Judith, or is it Judas?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. And this is Judith? Yes?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
What your name? Your first name?
My name is Judith, and I just wanted to comment on the minimum wage.
Thank you. Yes, you're in the right place. Now go ahead and turn down your radio, Judith, and let me know.
It's not on. My radio's not on, but I'm on a cell phone, and that may be why it's not getting good. I can't hear you.
No, I hear you. It's good. Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay.
Tell me about your experience.
Well, my story is I recently worked for not a fast food, but for a grocery store that paid minimum wage, and it was the hardest work I'd ever done in my life, and I stood on my feet, 8 hours straight, except for the lunch and another break, and I couldn't live on it. I didn't make enough money in an hour to buy me a pair of pants that they wanted us to wear. I didn't make enough money to hardly do anything except buy a little food and pay for my gas to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they should raise minimum wage, and I don't think $15 is too much to raise it to, because I know as a single mom during my lifetime, I often had to take jobs that were minimum wage, and I did not get food stamps, and I could barely make it, and usually I had 3 jobs just to pay for my children and to bring them up. Now, I'm retired. I mean, I'm not retired, but I'm retirement age, and that's not that big of a problem, except for when I got a job recently at that grocery store, and they didn't
I
pay
gotcha.
me.
And nobody, I think nobody out there is going to dispute the fact that minimum wage jobs are sometimes the absolute hardest. You're going to be on your feet for a good portion of the time. A good, I think it's over 50% will see a pay increase within the year. We're talking about a predominantly younger, disproportionately young population, 16 to 24, and 24% are 16 to 19. Here's my question. If the consequence of the $15 minimum wage means that they hire fewer people and they replace them with, in the case of McDonald's, machines that can do the job that they are doing, does that impact your decision?
Well, of course, it would make less jobs for people, but I still think it needs to be raised. I don't, I can't see how McDonald's would get rid of everybody. I don't see how a machine could do everything, but, I could be wrong there. And I just feel like these people work really hard, and their managers and the owners of McDonald's are making billions and billions of dollars.
Well, actually, they're not. Actually, they're not making billions of dollars. The vast majority of McDonald's are actually individually owned by the individual buying a franchise and trying to make it work for their family. And so you're not talking about, even if you were a corporate bigwig, so to speak, it would go in and it would change the entire structure of profits and costs and the way things were priced. But I guess the question I have is, you feel, Judith, and you're entitled to your feelings, and thank you, but my question is, what about the consequence of the action? Less people working, and that means people are not able to get a job now.
Well, and here's my thought on that. My take is, well, the people who are working aren't making enough money, so they're getting food stamps and all these other government subsidies just to live. If they raise it up, they won't qualify for food stamps anymore.
Interesting. Thank you very much for your phone call. We're out of time. I would only say the fact that they're not going to be able to get a job. Majority, we're talking about 2.7% of the workforce. The vast majority of those people are not supporting the families. We're talking about 4% of the people making minimum wage single parents. Train Durham's Up to the Truth, AFR Talk.